Hello, it's Mr. Layman, and today I'm going to talk about something that is becoming a real problem in the United States. Our national teacher shortage. I've been seeing a lot of articles like this, where there's just a whole lot of open positions at a school, or in a school district, or in a state. And it's like, well, it's August the 4th when I'm recording this, and in some places school starts in 3 weeks, if not 4. So how are you going to fill all those teaching positions? Well, let's talk about why they're vacant in the first place, with an internet-friendly numbered list. Number 1, the pay. Teacher pay has never been really great. Teaching is one of these professions where you do it kind of because you love it, like it has to be kind of in you. Much like many passion-driven jobs, teaching is not exactly something where you get rich, unless you're coaching a basketball team in the NCAA. Then you can get rich. But beyond that, if you're just, teaching science at a school, you're not really in it to make a giant pile of money. So I'm going to tell a little story. I have a friend who is 32, teaching for about 5 years. She has a BA, she's certified, which is a whole process. So to become a teacher, it is a lot of hoops to jump through. But she's got all that stuff, and she's telling me, after taxes, she's making about 30 grand a year. And now she's a secretary. And yeah, she makes a little bit less money, but it's not really comparable. I think it's like $100 a month less than she was as a teacher, which is like $1,200 a year. And she's a secretary, and she doesn't have homework. There's no parents to email. She doesn't have to get up at 5 a.m. to get to work by 7 a.m. because those of you with children know that you drop your children off at school at absolutely the most absurd hours in the morning. So, yes, she makes less, but she has a life now. Working outside of those contract hours is part of the job, but it's rarely part of the pay. This is a job posting for a teacher. Speaking of pay, who is going to want to do this? What kind of teacher are you going to get for $16 to $18 an hour? What kind of a maniac is going to want to do that for that amount of money when they're that qualified? You have a master's degree and you're making less than like someone who works at In-N-Out? Like, this is the plan? You're going to pay someone this amount of money to teach children? How good a job do you think they're going to do? There's this phrase, you get what you pay for, but yikes. Like, I'm not going to do it for that amount of money. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. I'd like to eat more than just unflavored top ramen. So now that you have all these teachers quitting, or you somehow can't find replacements, you're ending up with these massive class sizes. Now, class sizes have been a problem for years. They're way too big. My first job I ever had teaching was I had a classroom with 30 desks and 31 kids. And this one girl just sat on this guy's lap, and that was where she sat and where they learned. And I came in there as a long-term substitute in October. So it's like you've been sitting in this kid's lap for a month. I went and got that person a desk. I literally found like one of those desks that's the, you know what, I'll just do a picture of it. One of these. And I found it by the side of the road. And I was driving around in a van because I used to do film work and just throw all my, cameras and lights and stuff in a van. So I just found a desk by the side of the road, cleaned it up and brought it to the classroom. So she'd have somewhere to sit. With all these teacher shortages, these classes are being combined together into these huge, giant classes with even more kids in them. Or you're getting this sort of split class where the class is, it's math and science, or it's history and English at the same time because you don't have a history teacher and you don't have a English teacher. So you just sort of mash the two classes together and go, they both involve writing. Or your science and math. They both involve numbers. So now you're getting this watered down sort of class that's not really one thing and not really the other. And the class is also absolutely inconceivably huge. And look, I get it why now there's this impulse, even more than before, to just throw textbooks at kids. Because how can you teach a class of 45 kids? I'm just going to be honest. Any class size that's over about 17 becomes exponentially more difficult to manage. I don't care if those kids are extremely well behaved. It just comes down to they need to sharpen a pencil, or they need another handout, or, oh, I have a question about this, or like the instructions were unclear. Even the ones that want to learn and want to excel, it just becomes a matter of maintenance for you as a teacher when you just have that many people. And any amount of maintenance that you're doing, you only have so much time in a class. So if you're spending 10 minutes just doing the maintenance part, you're missing out on the learning. And if you have, say, there's 180 days in a school year and you teach 170 days, let's say, because, you just have these special events that come in and interrupt your class. Let's say you lose 10 minutes per class just doing maintenance. Out of 170, that's 1,700 minutes. You've lost 18% of your instructional time, which means the kids are going to be even further behind. And how do you grade 45 kids in a class? How do you assess them? How do you know where they're strong and where they're weak? And planning time, you can forget that. Because now you've got all these teachers that are just covering other classes. If they're not teaching a combined history and English class, they're teaching history in one part of the school and then English in the other part of the school. So they don't have planning time for either. Which means that they're not going to be able to do all those grades very effectively. The third issue is faculty structure. The veterans have all left, either to teach on their own, like what I'm doing, they've retired early, or they've moved on to new careers, like being the assistant manager of a mattress store, or being a secretary. Nobody is modeling best practices or ideas to these replacement teachers, because anybody who knows how to teach is gone. So any new teachers don't know how to do classroom management, and they don't have consistent policies from room to room. This is my questions later, questions now sign. I learned this from a veteran teacher at my last job, and I went on to teach it to other people at my job, so we'd have a consistent policy of when I'm taking questions later and when I'm taking questions now, so my class isn't constantly interrupted with their questions that could wait until I've finished a sentence. Okay, now I'm ready for you to answer. I'm ready to answer your questions. Like, if you don't know how to do that, where do you get that information from? So there's no mentoring, there's no consistency from room to room, and new teachers, they let everything slide, or they just quit. And there's a massive amount of subs that are going through these places now, and a sub is going to let everything slide too, because it's not their problem. This means the kids could just do whatever. Okay. Plus, in a massive class, you can't put out all those fires. This leads into the fourth thing I'm going to talk about, which is weak administrative support. Teachers, how many times have you sent a student out for being off task or being disruptive or, I don't know, throwing a textbook at another kid? You send them down to the office, only to have them come back 5 minutes later with a big old smile and a treat. The student that's making your class more difficult just covertly learned something. They learned that they are rewarded by your boss if they act out. That they get to leave class, which is a reward for them. And they get attention, which is a reward for them. Hey, admin, stop doing that. That is not supporting the mission of the school, and it's not supporting the child, and it's not supporting the teacher. I used to have a principal that would expel kids. Mid-year, even. He expelled a kid for being a bully. This kid was a bully to students and faculty alike. Expelled her. Expelled a kid for being super racist. Talked to him about it. Said, hey, your behavior is really disturbing. And he just kept being super racist. So he kicked him out. Expelled a kid for gloating about his constant cheating to the other students. Okay, bye. Yes, hold those people to account. Those behaviors poison the other kids. And if they're not handled, they're going to continue. And right now, they're not being handled. So now you're getting this just mire of bad practices and bad behaviors either being reinforced or just allowed to continue. There's another thing that weak administration does. and that they've always got some new thing they're trying to test on you or spring on you at the last minute or the last second, usually with your limited prep time. Hey, we're going to try this new grading policy 4 days into the school year. And then they'll switch it up in the mid-year and then be like, oh, you know what? We're actually going to go back to what we used to have. That happened to me with 3 different grading policies in a 4-year span. Or, hey, here's an idea. We want to reward kids for good behavior. And they should be able to reward themselves for good behavior. So we're going to put these touch screens in the hallways. That way they can give themselves points, and they can redeem those points for actual physical prizes. And I even remember the students being like, wait, we can reward ourselves? Why wouldn't we just reward ourselves? And the logic was, oh, well, you'd only reward yourselves if you're doing a good job. And the students are like, so you're fine with me assessing what a good job is? Well, I know that 13-year-olds are really good at, making smart decisions. So that just led to the very obvious thing of, well, I'm just going to be late to class because I was out in the hallway giving myself points so I could redeem them for a scooter. But it's also like, oh, do you think I was bad? Because if I was bad, then maybe I should go back out into the hallway and dock myself some points and miss your class more. Just stop. This creativity, it's getting in the way of our effective instruction. In my last in-person school, I had a boss who wanted to make me a better teacher. And he did. But he didn't get in the way of my teaching or my instruction. He didn't want to dictate or micromanage my content. And he modeled and shaped me into a much better educator. He wanted to know how my lessons supported the educational goals of the school. That's totally fine. That's what we want. Help us teach better, but don't spring a bunch of forms on us or dock us points on an evaluation for showing a clip from a movie about Vikings in a lesson about Vikings. Don't stand there with your arms folded and go, oh, well, how did that 90-second clip about Vikings help you teach about Vikings? Well, you were there. If you can't see how it connected to the learning, then maybe it's a problem. But I'm teaching about Vikings, so I'm going to show this clip about them. Right? So that we're breaking up my lesson with media and images and stuff, which is helpful. So my last school went through about 13 different people trying to replace me after I left in 1 year. As far as I know, they currently have 2 people doing my old job, but whatever. Probably could have paid me the salary that you're paying both those people and just given me that money, but teacher pay. Why would we raise that? Anyway, so one of the people that they had, and he taught there for about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, he just showed the kids movies. He let the kids log into their Netflix on the smartboard and then just pick movies to watch. And at one point they watched Cool Runnings in my medieval history class. Cool Runnings. It's a movie about a Jamaican bobsled team. What does that have to do with the Byzantine Empire? I'd also like to point out that Cool Runnings is a movie that's about an hour and a half long, and my classes are an hour. You meet twice a week, you watch the first half of Cool Runnings one day, then you watch the rest of Cool Runnings the next day, and then you just go outside and have recess. There's no discussion about what you learned from Cool Runnings. You just go outside and shoot some hoops. In that scenario, in the Cool Runnings watch party, what are you assessing and what is their grade? Which leads into the next issue. Everyone passes. This has always been kind of a bane in education. And it's actually one of the reasons why I work in private schools, because private schools are a lot better about getting rid of teachers that just auto-pass the kids and typically can hold the kids to a higher standard. But I remember from my earliest days when I had a student that had an 8% in my class, and I was told by the head of the math department, I was teaching math at the time, that he did extra credit to get him to 50%. 50% was passing. I'd also like to point out that the assessments they were given were mostly multiple choice. So if the person just put B for every answer, they'd have a 25%. And the math teacher broke it down. He said, hey, look, we need our funding. So the kid passes. Do you want to get good reviews as a school? Everyone passes. Do you want to get angry emails from parents or the PTA calling for you to be fired? Then everyone passes. Admin doesn't want that either. They're looking at you like, oh, how come kids can't pass your class? And they come down on you harder with more of their micromanaging. So it's in your best interest to just pass them. Plus, when you have these massive class sizes, let's say you have 90 students, which is actually pretty low. Let's say you're grading math homework and you see 90 kids a day. You have 3 classes, 30 kids each. When I used to teach math, that was about how many kids I would see in a day. Let's say it takes you 3 minutes to completely grade a math homework. There's 30 kids and it takes 3 minutes each. So that's 180 minutes of homework that now you have to do. That's 3 hours where you're not going to get paid. But if you give everyone a B, I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. No one's going to come down on you really hard. Oh, look how many kids are passing. Yeah. I had one student I used to work with where everybody at his school was on the honor roll. And he, for some reason, didn't have his 8th grade algebra placement test, and he was in the 9th grade. And I needed to fill out some kind of report that says, oh, you took this exam, and here's what you got. So I just made him retake it. He scored a 3%, and he was an honor student. You can take the test. I'll put a link to it in the description, but you can take this algebra placement test because it's just easier to just pass them because no one's going to complain. Hey, I'm on the honor roll. Great. No follow-up question. We had a parent-teacher faculty kind of conference thing one time at a school where I used to work at, and this parent was really concerned about his child's grades. So he pulled us all in as a faculty meeting, and I just remember it because it was really early in the morning. But the dad was concerned about how his daughter was doing in math. And the daughter did not know how to divide. And I don't mean it didn't know how to do the operation of how to divide. Like, it literally did not know where to put the numbers. Like if I said 21 divided by 3, she did not know where to put the 21 and the 3 in the 7th grade. She had a 109% in this class. And the math teacher that had just been inflating all their grades had worked there for 20 years. Now, I will say this was back in 2010-ish, and they fired that math teacher for that reason, replaced them with somebody that wanted to teach the kids better, but they gave that person a good salary, and they gave that person strong resources, and those class sizes were... My biggest class at that school was 13 kids, but that math teacher had worked there for 20 years before anybody caught on. So yeah, you can learn to skate by and get excellent reviews because of how well your students do. Because of how well your students do. All these issues are all meshed together. You have inexperienced faculty that won't fail anyone, don't know how to do classroom management, and quit just as soon as they're hired. The kids learn that their behavior has no consequences, meaning that they work less hard, meaning more of them fake pass, making them unprepared for classes they're going to take later. Because if the student couldn't do it in the 8th grade, what makes you think they could do it in the 9th or the 10th? This is becoming a severe problem, and I completely understand why teachers don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to a traditional classroom, not unless you're going to fix these problems. But I get it. These teachers are done. And it is going to be a problem that's just going to get worse until we actually fix it with viable solutions. And hey, here's a little hint, just a little tip. The people you should really probably talk to or listen to about this teacher shortage are the teachers. Ask those teachers why they're leaving their profession, a profession that they went into because they have a genuine passion for it, and they've been burnt out on their passion. Ask them why they're leaving. Take a look at those problems and fix them, and those teachers will come back. Otherwise, it's going to be cool runnings and textbook learning all the way down. So I'm working as a private educator, and it'd be really helpful if you clicked like or subscribed or share this with people. It's helpful for me to get new clients and students that really want a strong and valuable and enriching education. because that's why I got into education. It wasn't to fill out a report card and just put a B on everything and then just go home. I genuinely want to help students learn, and any amount of sharing or support you could give would be really helpful. Okay. Hope you have a super awesome, cool day. Take care. Bye.